Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I like Kate Middleton's style very much and I followed her during her time as a princess, what she's wearing, and she has a very minimalistic, classic feminine style that I really like. She usually wears fit and flare dresses or really fitted dresses. She is tall and slim and totally not my body type, but I really like most of her dresses. So I looked into what she wears, how she wears it, and she wears a lot of LK Bennett dresses, and they have a really nice variety of dresses for working women, but also more casual. As you see, Kate Middleton often goes to polo matches and something like that. And then she has really nice dresses, and that kind of dresses I would like to recreate. So in this video we're gonna recreate a dress that she wore to a polo match, and I found a rather similar fabric, and that is a chiffon. I'm not sure if the dress that she has is a chiffon too, but you can use a chiffon, you can use a viscose, you can even use a jersey if you like, but I thought it was nice to have somewhat the same colors as her dress had. And it's a really nice dress. It's not really that fitted, so that you can also very easily use your chiffon for that. And it's a really nice and flowy dress that you can wear for more dressy things, but also just for casual. So I hope you like it. If you like Kate Middleton's dresses, then certainly follow me around, because I will do more of these dresses this season, because I like them very much and I find some really nice fabrics that are matching the dresses that she wears. So please subscribe if you like that, and I will show you how to make this dress. And if you like the dress that I'm wearing, I have a sewing class about that. I will leave the link here, it's on that side, and also in the description box down below. And I will also link some sewing tips, how to sew with chiffon, also in the corner and down below in the description box, because it's not difficult, but you just have to know some things. And I also had a sewing class about that, so you can watch that first if you're not really sure to sew with chiffon. So I hope you like this video. And this is the dress that I bent. I must say I'm not sure if it is an LK Bennett dress, because I couldn't find it on their website anymore, but because I think this dress was from 2019, so maybe it's not there anymore, it's not for sale anymore, but it looks like many other LK Bennett dresses. It has this nice pattern in grey, a bit sage green with some pink. And as I said, I'll make it out of chiffon. You can also do it just out of a thin viscose, floral viscose, or even a jersey. It has, as you see, a V-neck. It has these very fluffy sleeves. And especially when you make it out of chiffon, it looks really nice because it falls very flowy. Then she has that big ruffle down the bottom of the skirt. I like that very much, and the skirt also has some ruffles from the waist down to the hem. I'm not really a fan of that. I think it's a little bit too much. I'm not going to do that. Also because I already have so many dresses with those ruffles around the skirt that I'm not going to do that. The bodice is not really tight fitted. It is a little bit loose. Also the top of the bottom is a little bit loose, not really wide, but we can cinch it in with a belt that is of the same fabric as the dress is. And I think it looks really nice. It's flowy, it's nice, it's not too tight, so very comfortable to wear. So, and this is how it's gonna look. We make the V-neck here, not really tight bodice going out in the skirt that's going a bit more out on the hemline, a ruffle on the bottom of the hem, and some fluffy sleeves. And we make a belt of the same fabric to tie around, and you can leave that loose or you can attach it to your side, to the side seam, or whatever you like. And the back is even more plain. It's just a round neck and just the same as the front is. And the fabrics that I use for that is this beautiful sage color chiffon with some pink in it. And I'm gonna line that, because of course this is too sheer to use it on its own. I'm gonna line it with this skin colored, it's my skin tone, viscose jersey that is stretchy. I like a stretch lining that feels nicer, and it's this one is very nice too. The skin is very soft, and I'm gonna use my lining for the top part, so the bodice and the top part of the skirt, and then I'm gonna treat them as one. So I'm not gonna do any facing here. My lining will be the facing. If you have, if you work with normal jersey or normal viscose and you don't want to line it, then you should cut a facing here for the neck hole in the front and on the back. And you can do that too. I'm just gonna line this piece, the sleeves and the ruffle I will not line. And if you want to make ruffles like Kate's dress had, I'm not sure how they are going. I think they're going in a sort of a cross on top of the skirt. You can just make ruffles and sew them on, and if you're not sure how to do that, you can watch the tutorial of the dress that I was wearing in the intro that has a lot of ruffles on top of the dress and the skirt, and you can see how to do that. So for your pattern, you take your basic pattern, and if you don't have a basic pattern yet, I will link down below and here in the corner the sewing class how you can make a basic pattern to your own sizing. Of course, it's for free, you just have to draw with me, and then you have your basic pattern that you can use for every other project that we do, because you can make any adjustments to it that fits your sizing. And what you do is you put it on another piece of paper and you trace that basic pattern. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to use the dart, so I leave that just open. But I want the bodice a little bit wider than your basic top is. I didn't put on my new pattern here along the armhole, but I give it a little bit more because I don't have a stretchy fabric. I'm afraid that it will be too tight, and I want it a little bit loose but not too much, just a really relaxed version. So I'll give it from the armhole down a little bit more, and as you see, this was my basic top line. I give it in the waistline, going down to about the waistline and then going out. So make it a little bit of an A-line shape so that you have more room on the hem of your skirt. So going out from the waist down, going a bit out, and then what you do is on, I hope you can see it because of course this is a little bit strange, you make your hemline going from the mid part up a bit. So you make a bit of a curve up, because then you get your hemline falling more nicely. And I'm not sure how long I made mine. I measured on my body how long I want my dress to be, and on the bottom we give it an extra ruffle that I took for 24 centimeters. That's not on this pattern, so I make another 24 centimeters going down under this pattern. And this pattern for me now is 90 centimeters, but I'm very short, so measure for yourself how long you want your dress to be when you make a ruffle underneath it. So I made my ruffle 24 centimeters high, but maybe you want to make yours smaller or taller, and then measure how long your pattern must be for your dress. Then what I did for the back part, of course, it is the neck hole that is the highest, and for the front we want that V-neck. So I marked on my basic pattern already how low I want a V to be. So I marked that down on my new pattern, and I give it just a straight line to that point. So this point is for the front, this is for the back, the rest is for front and back, of course the same. So it's a pretty simple pattern to have for your dress. And then, as I said, for the ruffle you have to cut just a plain rectangle, and you will certainly have to do it out of a few pieces. So I make mine 24 centimeters high, and then take 1.5 times the circumference of your hem. So this is the quarter of your hem all around. For me, in the end it will be 1 meter and 28 centimeters all around, and I make the ruffle 1.5 times that 120 centimeters. So then you get a nice ruffle here, not too much, not too little. So cut that out of rectangular strips that you probably have to sew together. Then for the sleeve, better do it like this. For the sleeve you will need your basic pattern for a sleeve, and also if you haven't done that yet, I will link down below and here in the upper right corner how you can make your basic pattern for the sleeve. Also this one you can alter many times, so once made you have it for always. My sleeve has a rather high head. The head is from here to here, so where the armhole is to the top. It is rather high because I use this basic pattern also for dress shirts and things like that. So then I want a more higher head. But now for this dress we want it a little bit lower. So what I did is I marked on a new piece of paper what the shape of this head is. And I marked where the sides are. Then I took it away. And then I made that curve lower. So this is my new curve. This is the old one that we're not going to use. And the only thing in the new curve that you must make sure, you learned when we made the basic pattern that this whole curve is the same as your armhole opening for the front and the back together. So that measurement of the front and the back armhole together must be the same as this armhole for a basic pattern, not for a pattern that you have to get in, for a basic pattern. And that same measurement now must be the same for this lower head, because this head is lower, it has less distance as this higher one, so you have to make your curve longer to the side. So I had to add 5 centimeters to both sides to get the same measurement as the armholes have. Then I gave the sleeve seam going a little bit out, and I made mine just very small. It's just 5 centimeters, not even 4 centimeters. And then I make a curve for the bottom of the sleeve, and that makes that when you sew your sleeve like this, it is very nice and flowy, and it gets all those pleats, and it gives a very nice sleeve. Of course, you see this is not symmetrical, so what I always do is I fold it in the middle and then cut it out so that I have left and right the same, because when I have to freehand I never can do it the same on both sides. But that doesn't matter, it's just that you know what shape it has to be, then you fold it in half and you cut it out, and then you have a symmetrical sleeve. And those are just the 2 parts that you need for your dress. So I cut all my pieces out of the chiffon. The front, the back one on the fold, so it's nice one piece. The front part also on the fold, because we don't need a zipper or whatever, so you can put both pieces on the fold. And then I got 2 sleeves and 2 rectangles for the ruffle, and I cut just 2 times the whole width of my fabric. Together that is 3 meters, so that will be too much because I only need 260, but I'm gonna see if it is too much of a fabric, too much ruffled in, or if I can get away with it. If it's too much, I just cut off some at the side seams that I get 260 that I really needed. So what we're gonna do now, we put this aside. Normally often we, of course I also cut the front and the back of my lining, and normally we treat them as one and sew them like that. Now first we're gonna sew them separately. So you take your front part and you put right sides together, your back part on top of it, of the chiffon. And then what you do is first you're gonna sew the shoulder seams. So both shoulder seams here, you sew that down. And you do exactly the same for your lining, so also put them right sides together. And then sew the same shoulder seams. Just like that. have your shoulder seam ready. Make sure you iron them down, iron them open, that they are nice and flat. And then you put your chiffon part on top of your lining part, right sides together. And then what you can do is you pin. First try out if your head can go through that hole of your neck hole, because when you have stitched them together you cannot change it anymore. So make sure your hole opening, neck hole opening is large enough. And then what you do is you can pin your chiffon onto your lining, and then you sew it all around. So just pin the shoulder seams first, and then pin all around. And make sure that your V is nicely connected, and your mid-back also. As I did, to make a reinforcement stitching here on the bottom of the V, because you have to cut it in through both layers until the stitching. So make sure you don't go through the stitching, but certainly as close to the stitching as you can, and also make some snips to the side so that you get a nice sharp V here when you turn it around. So what you do now is you flip the whole thing through the hole, so the lining through the hole, or the other way around, doesn't matter. So everything goes through the hole. Then you flip it to the right side, and then what you need to do is to press this seam very well. And yes, also chiffon you can press on a lower setting, and if you need a higher setting when your chiffon isn't willing to give it a nice press, then take a damp cloth, put it on, and then put your iron on a higher setting and press that really nice down. And then what you can do, you can top stitch it, or you can stitch, what I like most is top stitch it to the lining side. So you flip it open after you have seamed it, and then you're gonna stitch it here on the lining or through both of the seam allowances. So the seam allowance is attached to the lining, and then you top stitch it close to that seam, and that makes that the seam allowance will stay on your lining side and your lining won't flip out, because that doesn't look nice. Because you see this is totally different, well, it's not totally different color, but the inside is different than the outside, so you mustn't see your lining going like this when you wear it. It's very annoying, and I really hate how it looks. When you top stitch it here from the outside, then you certainly won't have that, but I like it more, I like chiffon more when it's not that much top stitch, because I think it's nicer like that. So iron it down, press it down very well, and then top stitch it, or top stitch it on the lining part. I top stitched the lining from the inside, so I top stitched the seam allowance onto the lining, and I have a very nice sharp V. Make sure that looks nice, otherwise it's not looking very good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sew the side seams. That means we're going to put it right sides together again, and now we're going to treat the outer fabric and the inner fabric, the lining, as one. So make sure you pin them together on a few parts, and then pin the side seams together. Of course, you flip it around like this. And if you're not confident in sewing in the sleeves later on, you can also now first sew on your sleeves to the armholes, putting it right sides together, and just sew your sleeves already in, and then do the side seams. You can do that too, but I rather first do the side seams, that I can see how it looks, if I want to take it in or if it's okay like this. So I'm gonna do that first. I sewed the side seams of my dress, sorry, and then I put it on to see if I had to make any adjustments. And what I also do when I recreate something, I compare it to the picture of the garment that I want to recreate. And this was okay, but what I saw when I look back at the picture, that the sleeves, her sleeves, were not going in a straight line around the arm, but going more up to the shoulder. And that means I marked it on my pattern, because I always make the adjustments to my pattern. If I want to recreate this sleeve or this dress, then I know what is the right one, and I have the right pattern. And it means that the nice curve that we made on the hemline of the sleeve has to be way up here in the middle. And it's quite a bit, it's about 5 centimeters I think, that I have to add up. Yes, I marked it on my sleeve first when I put it on my arm, how high it needed to be, and then I marked it on my pattern. And that means that the nice curve that we made is almost a flat line going down to the side seam, because when I put my ruler next to it, you see it's just curving up a little bit, only here. Of course you can curve it up here already and going down, but I think it's nicest when it's going more straight here and then make the curve here at the end. So I'm gonna adjust my pattern, I'm gonna adjust my sleeve. And then we can put on in the sleeves, and it means what you do is you take one sleeve, put a pin where the middle is by folding it together, side seams together. When you're doing that, you can immediately mark the middle of your sleeve. Then you're going to sew your side seam for both sleeves, and then I'll show you how to put it into your dress. And what you can do for the sleeve seams, you can make a French seam. I have a tutorial about that, I will link it down below and here in the right hand corner. And that's a seam that is doubled up, that you don't see raw edges, but because I use my serger and this is not really a very thin chiffon, I just use my serger to finish this. But if you have a not so nice zigzag stitch on your machine, then I would recommend doing a French seam. It's not difficult, you just need to know how to do it. So watch that tutorial if you're not familiar with that. Now we're gonna put in our sleeves. And what I first did is I pinned my lining and my outer fabric together, so that I'm sure that I have both nicely aligned. Then make sure you have marked the middle of your sleeve, and then you put your sleeve inside your dress, right sides together. So I put my dress one side out, so the right side is on the inside, so I put my sleeve in my armhole, and then I'm going to align the side seam with the sleeve seam. And I always liked to sew on the side of my sleeve. So I'm gonna put my pins also on the side of my sleeve, so onto my sleeve. So I pin the side seam to the sleeve seam. And then I pin the middle of my sleeve that I marked here with my shoulder seam. And then you just pin all around. And if you have measured right, then you have now the same amount of sleeve as the armhole is. So just pin all around the sleeve seam and then sew that down. And pinned in all around, it should look like something like this. So the regular viewers know that I always hem chiffon in 2 steps. First folding it in once and then top stitching that and cutting off as much as the seam allowance as possible, and then folding it in twice and top stitching it again. Then you get a really nice and crisp hem. The only down part of that is that your fabric will be less flowy, less soft as it is when you haven't hemmed it yet. But it's a really nice way to hem it. Now that this fabric is more sturdy, it's not that thin and that flowy as usual chiffon, I want to try to do it like a normal old hem, so folding it in twice and then top stitching it. So I made as small as a rolled hem as I could with my fingers, because for me it's very difficult to fold the fabric. But I did it twice and I ironed it. I did it once, ironed it, doubled up and then ironed it again, and I pinned it down. And I'm going to top stitch it now just once, hoping that then my fabric will stay as flowy as it is now, because I really want this to be that fluffy as Kate's dress was. So I'm going to do that. If you have a thinner chiffon, certainly do the normal method by just folding it once, top stitch, and folding it twice and top stitch. I like that more. It's a more crisp and nice hem. But I'm going to try this now. So as you understood, we're going to hem the sleeves. I put my rectangles for the ruffle, I sewed them together, so that now I have one big circle. Mine is a bit too big. I think I like to have 2 times the circumference of the hemline that I'm going to attach the ruffle to, and I have a bit more. I should have 240 and I have 3 meters, so maybe it's too much, but when I ruffle it up and it is too much of a ruffle, I'll just take some off of the side seams that I have my 240, what did I say, 240, that I really need. So I'm just going to try with 3 meters if it's okay or not, and otherwise I will adjust it. And then what I did on one side of the ruffle, this is the ruffle, on one side I folded it in around 3.5 centimeters and I ironed it down so that I have sort of a seam here. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to gather this part here around 1.5 centimeters from the edge, so from the folded edge. I make a basting stitch there so that I can gather it, and then we put it on top of the hem of our skirt. I'll show you later on. And then you do a top stitch just above or below that basting stitch that we're going to remove afterwards. So I'm going to make the basting stitch and I show you how you put it on the skirt of your dress. And when making the basting stitch, make sure you stop halfway and then do a new one, so that you don't have just one thread going all around, because when it breaks you have to do it all over again. When you split it in 2, you only have to do half again. So I just did one part, I forgot to press record, so I'm now gonna do the other part. Now what you do, make sure that your lining and your chiffon or your outer fabric are pinned together, that you're sure that the edges are aligned. And then you take your ruffle and you pin them, the side seam of your ruffle to the side seam on both sides. And then you pull on one of the threads, the top thread is usually the easiest one, and you just pull from this side and from that side, so that you get ruffles. So you pull on the thread and with your hand ease on the fabric in ruffles. And you ruffle as much till you have the width of your, till the width of your ruffle is the same as the width, half the width of your dress, because I'm doing first the front part and then later on the back part. And then you have to see, or I have to see, if I can get away with these 3 meters or that I really get too much ruffles, because to my taste it's not, when there's too much ruffles I don't really like it. I think it looks too childish. So I have to see when I ruffle this up to the width of my skirt how it will be, if it will be okay. And then you pin it onto your skirt. I made my gathering 1.5 centimeters from the fold. So I put this over the bottom of the dress and then 2.5 centimeters, so that when I sew it on just above or just below the gatherings, that underneath I have 2 times 1 centimeter seam allowance. So my 1.5 here is 1 extra over the bottom of your dress, if I make sense. I believe not, but I hope you understand what I mean. So I'm gonna gather it up, see how it looks, and then pin it on, and then same for the back side. And then you sew it on all the way around onto your dress. And then the only thing you have to do is hem the bottom of your skirt. And I'm gonna try to do it the same as the sleeves I did. If you have a softer, lighter chiffon, do it the normal way in 2 steps. And then when you've sewn on the ruffle, you pull on the threads of your basting stitch and you can just take that all out. And then you will see that your ruffle looks more nice and not that fluffy. It may break like this, but that's not a problem. Then you go to the other side and you take it out too. The dress turned out beautiful, I think. I really like how it looks. It wears very nicely. It is nice and flowy, but not too wide. I can also wear it without a belt, but I think like this it looks really, really nice. The sleeves are nice and fluffy. They fall very good like this, and because my chiffon was not that thin, I could do the hem like I did it now. And the ruffle is very nice. I ironed this top part down a little bit more so that it doesn't stand out too much, because I had way too much width of my ruffle, but I think it looks really nice like it does. And I think it's just a really beautiful dress, and it's nice for just every day. It's also nice for an occasion because it's really a beautiful fabric and a beautiful cut, and I think it resembles Kate's ones very good. So I hope you liked this tutorial. It was pretty simple to do, I hope. Next week's sewing class will be even more simple, so if this was a bit too difficult for you, then certainly watch next one, because that will be a very easy one, and it's nice when you want to start with sewing but are afraid to do so. I hope you like my videos. Please subscribe if you do, if you haven't done already. And I'll see you again next Sunday. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.